welcome everyone to episode number 32. I'm your main host, Coach YoYo. We have our co-host, Coach Nik, as well.
I'm back.
And we have Colton in the background to do all of the direction, things like that. And our guest today is very special because her and I worked together back in 2023. And we had an emotional, transformation, the mental transformations. On top of that, obviously the physical transformation is also a bonus. And you lost a total of how many pounds?
A total of 65. I got as low as 70 at one point, but yeah. 65
to 70 pounds loss. So
it's a whole child.
Yeah.
It's a whole fourth grader.
It's a whole person right there. So
Lord.
we want her to be on and to share her journey, obviously, and this is why we do our podcast. And last week was her last training day with me. So we're going to transition everything to an online here in the future. But so she's still working. She's still changing. And welcome, Tasha Wheelhouse. How are you?
I'm feeling really, really good, yo. It's good to see you both.
Good seeing you.
Good to see you. Oh, I saw you obviously 2 days ago.
Yeah.
3 days ago or something like that. 3 days ago. On Wednesdays.
Saturday?
We talk often.
That's a lot. And you guys may or may not be aware of this, but we also coach or used to coach Alton, and Alton is
my husband.
Your husband. So this is her perspective on her journey. This is going to be really, really good to share because the podcast with Alton was so good.
It was good, but that was emotional. That was a rough one.
Very emotional.
It was a really good one, though.
So we'll see where this podcast take us today. So let's do some introduction on you, Tosh.
Okay.
Talk about, we want to go way, way back, right? We want to go into, back when you maybe middle school, high school. Where were you in that point of life in terms of physical, emotional, all that stuff?
Oh gosh, in high school, of course, that's about when everybody I think starts going through like that self-conscious feeling of where's my body at, because it's just changed from childhood. And you're also beginning to see a lot more of your body in the context of what the world has produced, like magazines and stuff, and you start comparing yourself. And so for me, it was, I still had a very supportive home, a supportive friend group, but I was not very accepting of who I was because I would still judge myself. I think I even remember once I was slinging ice cream at a Cold Stone and and I remember looking at my hands, turning the ice cream, and then I remember looking at my coworkers and just thinking, man, their fingers are so thin. And I was like, man, me and my chubby hands. Like that's how self-conscious I was of it. And at the time, it's not like I really communicated that to anybody because I did not feel like I would have any understanding or sympathy around it because I did have such a supportive group. That sounds bizarre, but I really just kept it to myself about how much I really hated my body image. Because my friends would often go bikini shopping and ask me to come with them. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm going to stick with my one pieces because it's modest, which was my excuse. Because I wanted to cover my midriff. And it was not because I didn't want to be wearing bikinis. I just didn't want to be wearing a bikini next to my friends who were all fit. Like they were on track team. They did all kinds of sports. And in hindsight, I did too. I was actually a very active kid. We'd go hiking down in St. George. That's where I grew up. We would go wakeboarding. We would go, I took gymnastics for like 2 or 3 years for just plain tumbling. So it's not like I did anything competitive. And despite being like an active kid, I was still very judgmental of myself as I'm not that athletic. Like I don't fit in. I can't do Olympic level stuff, which I knew people were training to do, but that was the gap that I continued to focus on. And then it was during high school that I did secretly start to attempt bulimia, where I would eat and eat and eat and eat and eat to a point of completely throwing up. But it was the throwing up part that was actually super hard. And so I would just eat and eat and eat until my body physically hurt.
And then you throw up?
Sometimes, not all the time. It was actually really difficult to throw up. And so because of that difficulty, I got online and did research.
How to make yourself throw up?
Of how to make yourself throw up.
Wow.
And I made sure to like clear my parents' like browser history cache, which was not hard to do in like 1999, 2002. When was this? About then?
Yeah.
So in this article that I read, I was like, okay, I'm trying to find something of how to be bulimic. And it sounds crazy, but that's where my mind was at the time. And what I found was this page. I must have been like a mother or a father who wrote it or something, where that was the keyword of how to be bulimic. But what the article actually wrote, or the blog post, I guess, had to do with, okay, so if you want to be bulimic, this is what happens. You start losing hair. You start losing your teeth, and they go yellow because of the acid from your stomach. You cannot keep food down that you want to keep down eventually. Yeah. Like you get really sick. And the way that they wrote this article, I was like, okay, well then I just won't do the throw up part. I'll just eat.
How old were you at this point?
14.
Wow.
I was young. And so I was like, oh, okay, well then I just won't throw up. And
did you know any of your family members that are currently doing this, or did you do this and hide it from?
Oh, I hid it from everybody. I had no other family members that would attempt it, like, that I know of. I actually don't know. But the influence around that was just like this idea of I could overcome it if it became a real big problem. Wow. But I just started gaining weight. Like if I'm pounding like 2,000 calories into sitting, that your body cannot sustain that. Yeah. When I think at the time I was 140 pounds.
What were you eating? Just anything and everything you could get a hold of?
I would sneak food. Cereal was really easy to sneak because it was huge volume. So like milk and cereal was really, really easy. I could have like 4 or 5 bowls. And it's not like there was a tally in the pantry at home. Like I was allowed to eat what I wanted, but I would try to like temper it in a way where my parents wouldn't notice. Yeah. And so... yeah, that's where part of that started, and then I started gaining weight as part of that cycle, and I held. So
you continue that cycle for quite some time.
Years,
I'm assuming.
Years.
Wow.
So I would hit a certain like weight bracket. I'd hit 150, and then I'd bob between 150 and 160, and once I like really hit 160, I'd bob between 160 and 170. Wow. And by the time I met my husband, I was I think 165. Because I'd never get past or get down to whatever weight bracket. It was just kind of like slowly going up no matter what. And after I met Alton and got married, I got married at 180. And then after we got married, about a year after that, I finally hit 200 pounds. And I remember seeing the stretch marks on my stomach for the first time because I didn't understand what it was. I'd never seen stretch marks before. Yeah. And when the reality hit of, these are my stretch marks because I have been gaining weight fast. Like that hit home pretty hard. And I started crying in front of the mirror, and Alton's like, what's going on? And I'm like, this is what happened. This is what I'm crying about. And I'm concerned and I'm worried. And, he would comfort me, of course, cause he's my husband. He loves me. And, yeah, I remember the first time seeing stretch marks on my torso. But then I kept gaining weight. I would use food as an excuse to escape stressors, to escape whatever pressures I thought I was feeling. Because it would be like a soothing thing to pound a Snickers bar at 10 a.m. every day. Because there was a period of time where that was absolutely the norm. I would make a trip to the gas station during work at 10 a.m. to pick up soda, Snickers, some chips. But that adds up. Like after
not just calorically, but money-wise.
Oh, completely. Yeah. It's a very expensive bad habit.
Yes. Yes.
That could later on potentially causes you more health issues. Yeah. Then you have to spend more money in the with your medical bills. But yeah.
Yeah, and so like my husband's health was always difficult when we first got married, and we found a lot of amazing things. If you have not seen that episode, please go and find it on this channel.
Yes. I don't remember what episode that was.
I don't know, but we'll
Tasha Wheelhouse is the name you should look for.
We'll share it. We'll reshare it. Once this one comes out, we'll put it out.
Yeah. But so he went through a whole health journey, and I just kind of, the only health issue I had was weight. And after a certain point, I think I hit 245. Wow. Was my rock bottom for me, personally.
Yeah. Was that your heaviest? Yeah.
That was my heaviest.
Was that the picture of you and Alton?
At Disneyland?
At Disneyland? That's the one? Episode 17.
Episode 17 with Alton. Go watch it. Just be prepared. I don't mean to interrupt you. It's,
Yeah.
There is a I guess trigger warning.
Yeah.
Because it does get very, very, very
Yeah.
emotional, and talk about some things. So just be prepared.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
But yeah, 245 was my lowest point, and it was hard to literally sit up in bed. It was hard to go upstairs. I can't even, like, it's hard to explain when you gain that much weight over time, how much you just don't notice it.
Yeah.
Plainly. My feet would hurt all the time. I had plantar fasciitis in both legs, so it just hurt to stand. So anybody who's never had plantar fasciitis, what it feels like is this bruise that goes from like the top of your leg in a single string down to the bottom of your heel, and then all of your weight is just standing on a bruise, is how it feels, and it hurts. Like,
I mean, I've bruised that part of my heel in soccer, and that sucks.
but you
I mean,
wake
you're out
up and
for a
it's this
while.
muscle that's tensed up tight, and it's a bruise that you're trying to stretch out. So even then I was like not motivated to do any kind of movement on my feet because it was awful. I remember going to a theme park with my husband and another couple that we had a double date with that day at Universal Studios. And I could not stand on my feet. I would like sit on the rails and pick my feet up off the floor.
Really?
I couldn't stand. I could not stand, but I was like, I'm not getting a wheelchair. And I actually do have a picture of me in a wheelchair at a different theme park at Disneyland.
Wow.
Because
of your feet.
Because of my feet, because of my weight. I just literally couldn't stand. And it was like a big debate of like, do I even ask for this? Because I am a person who can stand. But here I was feeling like I'm about to cry in the middle of Disneyland because it's just constant pain. So we did. There's actually a picture of me in a wheelchair at Disneyland because of it.
You know, the saddest part about that story, though, is that there's genuinely people living that life and not choose to change their life. Then, you know, they would stay in that, being not so uncomfortable in that moment. But what do they say? Oh, I'm too old. Oh, I don't have time. You know what I mean? But you decided to change. But the sad reality of that is people to this day, and you see this, we all go to the park, we all go to public places, and you see they're overweight, and they can't go on rides, you know? And
well, I want to ask really quick, because you made a comment a minute ago where you said that as you're putting on that much weight and you're changing that rapidly, you don't notice it.
I don't notice it.
At what point did you finally notice? What was that turning point?
Putting myself on a camera, actually.
Really?
Yes. So when I was in high school, my favorite thing to do was video editing, and I would get out my camera. I was the kid that would put my camera in my friends' faces and say, say something dumb. Let's go do something silly. We would make lip sync music videos, which is available on YouTube, but I'm not telling anyone where that is.
YouTube was the Wild West.
Oh,
it's a
absolutely was.
Okay.
But we would make lip sync videos, and I would love doing that stuff. And so I was so used to actually seeing what the picture of me in my head was on a screen. But then when I finally was like, okay, I'm going to start documenting myself doing better, I did document it, and I got crazy discouraged because my face is a completely different shape.
Yeah.
Like, for me personally, I was like, that's not what I look like. And there were times where once I saw that on camera, I'd like stop and look in the mirror and go, I don't recognize her. That is not what I look like in my head. Like that's not what I look like. And I'm not even talking about my body shape.
Yeah.
I literally mean my countenance as a person.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things of like, this has to change. I'm not who I am anymore.
Wow.
And what year was that?
That was 2022.
Oh, 2022.
That wasn't that long ago.
That was about a year before you and I worked together then, I assume.
Yeah.
It was. So what I started doing was like cold turkey keto.
Oh, here we go.
Wow. Not with literal cold turkey.
Yeah, literal cold turkey.
Gotta throw the
man.
dad. Oh, really?
Really?
Well, because it's protein.
I was gonna throw the dad joke in there, and then it was real. So.
But so I cut off carbs like full stop, period, point blank, off of sugar, off of bread, off of rice, off of anything that would like is still reasonable.
Yeah.
And I would suffer and cry for like I don't know, a week. And then after 3 weeks, I was pretty numb to it. I was like, I could do this. And then I'd start to see the weight drop off. And I did get from 245 down to just above 200. And I remember being so excited of being close to hitting 200 for the first time in years. And then I just broke. I'm like, I can't keep doing keto. It is going to kill me. I am not happy. Yeah. This is not giving me the actual energy or results that I want.
That's what I wanted to ask is, how did you feel?
I felt awful.
It? Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't the first time I'd tried keto. I'd learned it back in like the early 2000s. I don't know if y'all remember the South Beach diet being popular, then the keto diet being popular.
I'm pretty sure any and all diets that had come out from like 98 to
Atkins,
2008, probably in that 10-year span, my mom did every single one of them.
The Dr. Oz diet, which was literally
gosh.
The what diet?
Jared diet. Yeah, the Subway diet.
I don't know that
remember?
one.
So there's
like Jared
Hogel, or whatever his name was. He lost weight.
Someone to model yourself after, y'all.
Yeah,
that's not a good guy.
No.
I
sandwiches,
I know what you're talking
sandwiches
about.
were decent, but he's a.
The sandwiches are literally defined as
words
cake
that,
in the EU.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but
yeah, I remember that diet.
Yeah, Jared's a person
crazy.
that I can't.
I remember
say
that now. I remember that now. Yeah. And then keto was really big.
Keto got big. Atkins diet, Weight Watchers. I remember going to the Weight Watchers office with my mom for her to do that.
I remember
there was some she would order through the telephone. Like they had TV infomercials on all the time, and she would order them. And they'd show up to the house, and she let me eat a couple of them one night because she was too lazy to make dinner. And it was like the most god awful thing. I'd rather eat carpet. much rather just like rip a piece off of the carpet.
I remember my first FitCon experience because I think FitCon is originated from Salt Lake City, if I remember correctly. I think they started. Yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure. So I went to FitCon 2017, 18, if I remember correctly, and there was a whole so they try to put like every section's like similar types of like clothing and food or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And there's one row, it was keto. They call it the keto
drive or
whatever. Yeah. And the whole row, I mean, it was like 50 yards of them, just front to back. It was just keto product, keto friendly protein bar.
How packed was that
keto.
section?
It was crazy, dude. And you know who was there? It was kind of makes me laugh because I actually met him.
Wasn't
in real
Jared
life.
from Subway, was it?
No, it wasn't. You know that guy, Fat to Fit, Fit to Fat to Fit, Fit to Fat to Fit. He's a Hawaiian guy that he put on 70 something pounds so he can know what it feels like to be fat.
Oh.
And then he shred all the way down using keto. That was his market. That was his market. And I met him there and I took a picture of him. I actually have a picture with him somewhere at that FitCon. I remember sitting there talking to him about keto, and he was like, yeah. And so I asked him, like, so are you doing keto like all the time? Like, I straight up said, I'm like, I don't think that's healthy, dude. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I understand his product. So his niche of people is like get shredded using keto. And then he has like books, he has apps, he has all kinds of things on that keto stuff. And now it's not popular anymore. Now, obviously we know what is the popular thing to do today. But that was a bizarre thing for me to see. It's cool that he went from fit to literally add 70 plus pounds and back to fit.
I just question if he truly did keto. Because there's a lot of people who do something similar to that, and then they're like, look, I can do it, and this is what I did. And, I'm drinking this apple cider vinegar with, worms and fish guts in it is what got me to lose 1,000 pounds. Dude. It's like, you didn't do that.
Yeah.
I know for a fact you didn't do that.
And while I understand the model of his what do you call it? His journey and the platform that he uses, but I think it's causing a lot of issues for us, for other coaches that teaches lifestyle.
It just sets unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, because it's okay to eat carbs, and people are now afraid of carb because of the whole keto situation.
People used to be afraid of like fat in products in the 90s. Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember that being on every single box.
Yep.
Less fat, because just fat in general was bad to eat.
No saturated fat.
Or no saturated fat, yeah. Like there's definitely like a cultural flow and ebb of what people get afraid of to eat.
Yeah.
Because even I had that.
Well, it's a lot of marketing, but it's also the studies that are published through like NIH and these other organizations. It's the people who are backing the study and funding it. Because there's an issue in the early 2000s when a lot of information about how sugar affects cancer negatively was coming out. And a lot of companies like PepsiCo and Nestle and all this who were funding these researchers force them to forge the results in favor of them, saying that sugar was fine to consume and it didn't affect cancer. That was an issue in the early 2000s as well. So a lot of times when these fears come out, not only is it now, especially social media and fear mongers trying to put stuff out so they can get views and monetize, it's the people backing these studies. If the studies show that it doesn't favor them, they were able to manipulate the researchers to publish false information.
That's marketing. You just spin it the way you want it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember actually during the keto times, sounds like an age or era of history.
Sounds like the dark ages or something. Yeah.
Back in the keto ages. So I had also a doctor tell me I should go on keto. So I first considered it because back in the early 2000s, when all of those fad diets were exploding, my family did try them. And I did lose like 30 pounds doing that as a kid. So I went from like 150 down to 120.
Wow.
And then by the time I was 14, I was back to 145 again. So I was 12. This was my first like yo-yo diet.
At 12?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But it wasn't like malicious.
No, not at all. It's just sad to hear, you know, and that's the reality nowadays, that there's 12-year-olds.
Is your family, like siblings, parents, are they all similar, like, you know, weight issues and things like that? Is that like a common thing, or do you think it was kind of just you, like, you know?
I had it the worst, I think, out of all my
But everyone
siblings.
kind of did, because obviously, like, your parents are the ones doing the grocery shopping and things like that too, and you know, as a kid, you pick up on their habits and things like that. So
right, and it was absolutely my mother leading the family nutritionally to the best of her ability, because like she could see how much her kids had been gaining, because I was a really skinny little kid.
And probably lack of knowledge as well. She, you know, probably didn't.
She tried
didn't
everything,
know.
yeah. And of course, she was doing what she could to like say, this is what is healthy. This is what people are saying is healthy. We are going to do this healthy thing, and I still take it that way.
Yeah.
Because
Are you the oldest? Or
no, I'm a middle child.
Okay. How many siblings do you have?
I have 4 siblings. So I've got an elder sister who's 9 years my senior, an older brother who's 7 years my senior, me, and then a brother 2 years my junior. So that's the family dynamic, and mom and dad, of course. But when it comes to weight, like, yes, my sister definitely struggled with her weight in college. I would see it. And she was very communicative about her goals and what she wanted to do. And I think she would also attempt multiple different tactics to try and figure out how to lose her weight. And she eventually did find something that worked. And I cannot remember what it was. But then even in later years, she did take semaglutide to get the last bit off. And she's off of it now. She's weaned off of it. And
that's what it should be used for, if you were to use it.
Yeah. So she's used it to get the last little bit and then weaned off. And she did encourage me to look into it too right before I started working with you guys.
Wow.
Because I was like, you know, I'm up for options. Like, that is the thing that I would always take about it as a positive, is I was constantly trying. And that's what I feel like a lot of the frustration maybe people do feel, is that they try because they've seen people have success.
Yeah.
Because they would just want it for themselves too. And that is such a positive drive. And I don't want anyone to feel discouraged of like, well, shoot, I know my mother's going to watch this. Sorry.
It's all right.
Like, shoot, like, I tried keto and it didn't work for me, or I tried South Beach, it didn't work for me.
But I think that's the issue, is people, they just try, they don't do it, right? And so what I mean by that is trying has the intention to fail. Like, I'll try, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And you're like, oh, see, I told you. So you're almost like self-defeating at that point, where it's like you've got to pick something and you do it. If it doesn't work, that's fine, but you've got to keep doing it. And even if you hopped on semaglutide, we wouldn't judge you for it. And, you know, that's to no fault of your own. It's where we have an issue with it is where people understand, if I eat properly and exercise and change my habits, I can make a change. But I don't want to do that. I'm just going to do the shots. Where you had done multiple things to try to make these changes, and you got to the point where you were considering, maybe it is a shot I need to do. Maybe it's a medication I need to do.
Right.
So in that case, we can't fault people for doing that.
But the other thing I think I would love to point out about what you just said is some of that is just pure perspective and mindset.
Yep.
I'm trying it to try it, and if I fail, well, guess it sucks. But then there's also someone like me where I'm like, yes, I tried and I failed at a lot of different stuff that did nothing for my health, and I got to the heaviest I ever was. But I'm taking it as, oh, I kept trying because I did not give up. So that is, I think, in some ways, pure mindset.
Exactly. No,
Speaking
100%.
of mindset, how is doing everything with Alton?
Oh, he's great. Yeah, like
Because you guys did this together.
we did do it together. And frankly, the reason I even got on a consultation call with Yo was because my husband heavily encouraged me to do so.
He's got to be the most supportive person I've ever met in my life.
Wonderful.
Like, your husband is incredible. I love that guy.
I do too.
He's awesome.
I'm going to keep him around for a while.
I would hope so.
Like the rest
if
of my
not,
life.
we'll take him.
No, he's mine.
He said something to me, well, not to me, like when you posted my transformation, he shared it to his Instagram story. And for whatever reason, like when other people say it, I'm like, oh, like, thank you or whatever. But Alton shared it and he was like, yo, Colton is a beast. I was like, that's my guy, dude.
I'll die for this.
Yeah, it was like and it was just
I'll die on this hill right here.
Because I think too, like after the podcast, it's like some people are like, yo, this is my guy, he's doing great. And I'm like, thanks, they're being nice. When Alton said it, it's like you can tell how sincere he is. I was like, yo, he means that.
I would say after his podcast, especially that, I mean, still we talk about that was the most emotional podcast we have done for all of us when we all broke down in that one. So I think also maybe coming from that as well is.
All right, so let's get back to you talked all the way about, right up to when I had consultation with Alton, and then you decided to join the team. I think about maybe a week later, maybe a couple of days later. I think it was a couple of days later.
It was a couple days later
What
because
did
he and
that
I had a
conversation
conversation
look
about
like
it.
with Alton when he said, "Hey, I think you need to talk to them"?
He made sure that it was my choice. So that is like actually a huge part of our relationship, that even early on, like it is my choice to actively choose what it is that I want to do in my life. Like he encouraged me to talk to Yo, but he wanted it to be my choice. He wasn't going to tell me what to do. Because if I make the choice, I full hog commit.
Yep.
I always will. And when it came to talking to Yo, like I was actually scared because I got this narrative in my head of I am not good enough to talk to a professional bodybuilder. Like I'm just a girl, baby girls built for comfort, not for speed, and have been for some time.
What's the Simple Plan song? I'm just a kid and life's a nightmare.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
That's like a 20-year-old song now. Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
But I was actually super scared to talk to Yo because I was just like the feeling of not good enough to try.
Yeah.
Because if it hasn't worked out through now, why do I feel like professional help would actually get me over that hump? Because maybe it's my commitment issue. Maybe it's something I haven't done or I will just be told something basic where I'm like, okay, fine, I guess. And then it still doesn't work. But then now I've like put stakes on the line, which I have done in the past. I have joined specific gyms, very expensive, like CrossFit stuff, where it just didn't work for me because the culture was not a fit for me.
No.
It was very like, go get it. And I'm like, hey, okay, like I'll try, I guess. Because it was very aggressive. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it, that some CrossFit culture is just a very aggressive environment.
It is, yeah.
And I've just
make it
like,
out that way.
Yeah, got to go at a pace.
No. Well, I want to ask you something else because you said, Alton encouraged you to have a conversation with you on, and then you finally decided to do it. But then you told yourself, I'm not good enough to talk to a professional about this, right? So you have, since you were younger, and I think we've all experienced that, you've had that negative self-talk. You've had that little voice in your head that says, you're not good enough. Why do you think you should do this? Or why do you think you can do this? You're going to fail, so why even try? I've been thinking about that a lot with myself, and while it's my voice in my head saying it, it's not my words. These are the words of other people who've said it to me, and I've just taken what they've said, and now I'm saying it to myself. Did you at any point in your life have anyone tell you that? Like even as a joke, like, oh, you can't do that, and then you adopt it, and then now you're saying it to yourself. But have you thought of maybe it's other people's words in your head, but you're saying it to you?
Yeah, I think some of it was self-deprecation in high school, like we'd make fun of ourselves. But then when you say something out loud, your body doesn't know the difference. Like your consciousness is like, oh, okay, we suck now.
Yep.
I'm tired now.
Yeah.
So that absolutely, or like cultural phrases, like, so Napoleon Dynamite's a common film that most Utahns know. But Tina, you fat lard, come and get some dinner.
Oh no!
I had an alarm on my phone. I'm not kidding. That said, "Tasha, you fat lard, get up out of bed."
Whoa!
And I had that for weeks.
Was that your alarm, like to get up in the morning?
Yeah.
And you did that to yourself?
Did you record it, or who recorded it?
No, it wasn't the phrase. It was just typed out.
Oh, I thought it was like
I would
audible.
read it.
Oh my God.
And Alton didn't know that. So there was one morning where he grabbed my phone because the ringer was going off and I wasn't in reach of it. He was, and he saw it.
Mm-hmm.
He was so sad.
Yeah. How long ago, if I may ask, was that?
Oh, that was probably 8 years ago.
Wow.
So
Now, how long had you
2 10s.
let that alarm go off with that message? How long did that go?
Yeah, because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And then without talking to me, because we have access to each other's phones, he just changed it to beautiful princess get up.
Oh. Seriously, he's
Does
the
that
great.
not
He's
sound
the
like
greatest
Alton?
guy.
you found out? Was that next morning?
Yes.
So he didn't come to you and say, "Hey, what is this?" He just changed it and left it. And
I love that.
Yep.
What a
what a
person.
man! Alton, we
man.
love you, dude.
Yeah, me too. I love him a lot.
Wow.
Let's go back to that. It's crazy how much a negative words like that impact an individual.
Yeah.
Like, and you may not know it though, right? At first, we all
No.
mask our, insecurities with like, funny memes and funny phrases,
Yeah,
right?
we make jokes about
We
ourselves.
make jokes,
and people
yeah.
be like, "Oh my, like that's hilarious," but
Yeah.
really, it's coming from a place of, that's how I feel. And we've talked about it with some realization I've had as of late is, the one thing I still see in myself is that I'm skinny. I don't see myself as being in the 190s and being where I'm at now. And I always tell my wife that. I tell them that, like, I think I look like, your mom's listening, I think I look like garbage, right?
Thanks, Nick.
Sorry, Mom. I don't like the way I look, and I'm trying to figure out where did that come from. And, my older brother and my best friend, so my older brother and I are 14 months apart. My best friend and I are 2 months apart. So we're all like the same age. But growing up, we'd tease each other, and they developed faster than me, and I was always so skinny they would tease me for, as kids do. But I didn't realize it until like a month or two ago. I saw a reel of this guy talking to himself about his childhood. And he said he plays a therapist interviewing himself, and he said, "Is it normal to have a bad childhood and come out of it with body dysmorphia?" So I watched the video, and then I almost had an anxiety attack because it hit me like a freaking train of, I remember being skinny, going to the pool, as a kid, being outside playing in the sprinklers, and my mom making the comment, "My God, you're so skinny, people are going to think I'm not feeding you." And so I'm like, oh, and so I would always make fun of myself for being skinny, and I always see myself as that. And while, yeah, it's me doing it, and I need to be the one to do something about it, I'm like, well, crap, it's not my fault. It's someone else's who said it.
It goes back to, we had the Zoom call a while ago, and we were talking about, you have to be careful what you say to yourself in a mirror.
Yeah.
Absolutely do.
Right? And you have to be careful when you stand on that scale and your little kiddo sitting right there listening and watching you. Because what do you say? "Oh my God, I'm fat. Oh, I gained a pound. I look bad. I can't fit this. Da, 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 da."
Yep.
They listen to that. They may not understand it, but I'm pretty sure that as they
can
get
pick up
older,
on it, yeah.
they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, I remember my mom or my dad was always on a diet, right? We all have those. Two, always trying to find a clothes to fit and talk negatively to themselves when they look at themselves in the mirror."
Yep. That's all I remember my mom.
Yeah,
being
exactly.
younger. I remember that clear as day.
And you may not think of anything about it at that time, but now that we're older, we're like, "Oh my God, like I remember when someone called me so and so." And you laugh, they laugh, it's funny, it's a joke. And then a year, 2 years later, and I was, I wouldn't say I was a bully back in middle school, high school. Definitely not in high school, but I remember in middle school, we all know, when we have a group of friends, there's always that one, I'm going to say it, fat friend, right? I
That's
hate
how I felt. I felt like I was the fat
it's
friend.
right, but that's the words that I use to describe
Yeah.
my close friends. But even though they're friends and they're close friends, we make fun of them so much in a loving, kind way.
Yep.
But I didn't realize that now, and then I'm like, dude, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm joking with you and you play along with it, but I know deep down.
Yeah. But we don't know what happens when they go home.
It affects
Right?
them.
And they go to bed or they wake up and
And I feel terrible. And doing what I do for a living now, and I'm like, I have to really be careful with what I say to my son.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I can't call him anything anything negative physically because, or anything really, because he'll pick up on that.
So, of course, as we finally stopped telling each other girls are gross and we actually thought they were kind of cute, all the girls would, I'm just kidding. All the girls would go to Alex and Tyler. I remember in middle school and high school, like, the cute cheerleader would be walking up to me and I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, today's the day. I'm so excited. Like, hey, you're Alex's little brother, right? And I'm like, yeah, why? Can you tell him I said hi? I'm like, no, I'm going to tell him that you think he's gross, or like you can go tell him. And it would piss me off. But it's, I mean, like I said, we're all developing at that point. We're changing so much that it's outside of our control. But exactly, I mean, our words affect us.
Just understand, if you're listening to this and watching this, understand that if you are in a position where you can give someone positive affirmations, positive encouragement, positive words, tell them every second you have, do it, because you don't know what they've been through, right? You know, the bullying that they've been through, even though, you know, I was bullied when I was a kid too, in a different kind of way, because I was always small and I always hang out with, every one of my friends are like 2, 3, 4 years older than me. So I'm the smallest guy. Right. But growing up in middle school, I remember we all have that one big friend, I should say, and we all make fun of him. And now that I grew up, it's like, wow, like we have to be better and understand that even though you're just kidding and you're just, you know, being funny, but realize that that person may not think that is that funny. Yeah.
And I would say, as a key for affirmations, when you're giving it to someone else, never say, I think you are, because then that affirmation is not internal to them. You say, you are kind. Yep. You are thoughtful. You are something. That is a key to an affirmation, not, I think you're a great guy.
Sure, because, thanks.
Yeah,
well, do you think that? Do you really
Therefore,
think
if I
that?
don't, well, or even like the thought is like, oh, well, someone else external to me thinks it. It's you. When you give someone an affirmation, you are a hard worker. You are is the key to that. Not I think, but you are.
Yeah, I like that. So let's go back then. So Alton saw the message on your phone, changed it.
Yep.
When you noticed that he changed it, did you approach him and talk about it, or
I did.
How did that go?
I said, I noticed you changed this. And he's like, yeah, I changed it. And I said, well, how come? Because I was more curious than anything about why. I wasn't upset.
Yeah.
He was just like, this is important to me. Just change it. And I was like, okay. And that was kind of the end of the conversation. Like,
that was it.
Because it was like, and I didn't change it to anything else because I was tempted to change it back because I was so used to seeing it every day when I woke up. But because he directly asked me and stated that it was important to him that I do this, then yes. And since then, we've had multiple different conversations of if I am being mean to myself, if I'm not being kind to myself, that it infuriates him even because it's like, you're being mean to my best friend. Yeah. Stop it. Yep. You're being mean to my wife. This is not okay. Like, and so like, he'll absolutely make sure to put it into context of like, this is what I need you to do, is that this self-love that you show to yourself is a way to show me love as your husband, as your partner, because it's important. Yep. And a phrase that he says in the house all the time, we say, I love you, like, I don't know, maybe 30 times a day. Like, not just passively, but every time it's like, it always means something. We're just very vocal. And another thing that he says that is very common as I love you, which is you matter. You matter is his favorite affirmation to give me. And most times the expected response is for me to say it internally if I matter and like vocalize it back. Because it's important. I do matter. Because there were many, many, many years where the phrase, well, I don't matter. Yeah. It was responsive. It's not anymore.
Do you still feel yourself getting defensive when he gives you an affirmation or a compliment? Because like that's an issue I have with my wife, is she'll give me a compliment and without even thinking, she'll tell me, she's like, babe, you look so good. I'm like, no, I don't. Oof. Without even thinking about it, I'm like, holy hell, like did I really just say it? And so that's something that I'm still struggling with. So, but when she tells me like, babe, you look good, you look so handsome, when I say thank you inside, I'm like, that is the most uncomfortable feeling I can possibly put on myself. I mean, do you still experience that? Not
as much anymore. So when we were first going through like our personal changes of what we wanted to do to change ourselves, improve ourselves, and start like really focusing what we wanted for ourselves and for our future together, we went through a lot of exercise mentally of, when I give you an affirmation, there will be times where maybe it doesn't feel true. But that's the funny thing, is like there's a part to practice where there's like a gray area of it's not true, but it is true because I kind of did it. Oh, I actually do this all the time now. Yeah. Like there is like a scale that feels like when you go from it's completely untrue to it is true. And now when I feel that gap of he says something that does not feel true in that moment, I go on faith that it is and do my best to believe it. I never reject. anything he says like that to me anymore. I used to. I used to minimize it. I used to say it's not important. I'm not important. I don't say those things anymore. Because I know how poisonous it can be.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
So we don't have that problem as much anymore. We try to be very, very positive to each other in our home. And especially when it comes to like a personal conflict of whatever we're feeling in that moment of stress or confidence behind what choices we're making. It's a very different household than it was, I would say, 5 years ago. And I believe Alton would completely agree to that.
Love it.
So let's talk about the journey within, Unfinished Lifestyle. So you started working with me in June, I believe, 2023. You and Alton both started that. And so now that we know your story before, now let's talk about what you feel and how you felt during, our journey together. I know there's a lot of emotional journey. I know there's a lot of, physical changes as well. So let's go from the beginning. So when you have your first meal plan, where are you at?
Okay, so like my first meal plan, I was surprised because it felt like a lot of food. Because I was so used to like the fad yo-yo diets that I was doing that I was like, oh, I'm supposed to eat this much. And you're like, no, this much, but like every 2 hours.
But see, but now you're doing a real yo-yo diet.
Yeah. You got your dad joke. Yeah. So proud of you. But yeah, I was surprised by how much food it was and like every couple of hours. And they were like really nice things that I would eat normally anyway. Chicken, rice, Greek yogurt. Is good food anyway. Frozen vegetables, well, like cooked, and like frozen berries mixed into your yogurt, granola, stuff like that. Eggs. I loved eggs. And I could have rice cakes and I could have bread in like a sandwich. These were things that felt very alien to me who lived on nothing but keto planet.
Yeah.
And I was skeptical as all get out. I was like,
I was going to ask, did you doubt it at some point? You're
Completely.
like, hold on, he's giving me bread?
Yeah, he's giving me bread.
Does this guy even know what he's doing?
Isn't it crazy how a lot of the foods that you eat on your meal plan are foods that you're like, oh, eating healthy is so hard and healthy food. But you would go out to a restaurant and get the same. You would go get chicken, it's this. Yeah. It's just
that's what we tell people when they come in.
Butter.
Yeah, it's like it's normal food. It's normal food. You're not eating rabbit food. It's not salads all day and like these weird green smoothies. I mean, unless you want a green smoothie, we talk about all the time. We've given people peanut butter and jellies as a snack.
Sounds awkward.
I just had it right before the call.
Yeah.
I mean, right before the podcast. Peanut butter
sandwich
with a Fairlife.
Yeah, I mean, the only time we limit food is based off of blood work. That's it. Other than that, it's like, yeah, you can have tacos every night. You want a steak burrito every night? If we can fit it in, we're going to fit it in. Here
That was
you go.
the other thing.
Spaghetti.
I had tacos every night.
Yeah.
And they were like the normal hard shell stuff with like the beef and the tomatoes and the lettuce and hot sauce. Like normal tacos.
Did it almost feel like not real?
No, yeah. And there were times where I felt like it was difficult to get all the food in at the same time because I was so full.
So it was a lot of food, and I think if I remember correctly, you were starting to lose weight while eating more calories.
Yes.
Did that bother you? Did that made you?
I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, I'll do whatever he asks now. Like if I'm eating way more food than I was like on a normal day while I was gaining weight and I'm losing at this point.
Yeah.
Because it was something like because I was pretty heavy when we met.
220, was it
221, something like that.
222?
Yeah. And so like in the first like month, I think I dropped like 5 or 10 pounds just from eating because we didn't like put me on any cut.
Nope.
We just said normal exercise. Here's your food. Eat only this.
Drink your water,
Drink your water. Take your pills, like your fiber and your
sleep.
Yeah, sleep.
Yeah.
Keep your stress low, but make sure you hit XYZ thing. That's it. And it felt far too simple.
I was gonna ask, were you expecting it to be more complicated, like the actual program, or were you confused? Like, I just need to eat food, drink water, go to the gym, and sleep.
I think I was.
That's it.
I was expecting to suffer more.
That comes later with the cut, right?
Yeah, the cut.
Yeah. Why isn't
this harder? Where's the shoe gonna drop?
Yep.
But I was very surprised by that. Although I did follow the trust of it because of a phrase that you guys said, which was like, you don't have food restrictions. It's just compromise.
Moderation.
It's moderation. You pick and choose what you're eating. Just understand how your body processes it. That's
the number one thing that we tell our clients is that there's no such thing as bad food.
Yeah, there's no such thing as bad food. You can have a marshmallow, But you have to plan for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
just
can-
don't eat the whole
yeah.
bag of them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's the thing. And yeah, again, unless, like, you know, barring anything showing up in the blood work, we're not going to tell you can't have something. And if you do, just be honest with us, because a lot of times clients feel the need to hide it because they feel, you know, there's a fear of disappointment or they're going to let us down. It's like, we're not going to come down to you and yell at you and, you know, insult you or whatever. It's just, okay, so you had pizza, like, that's fine. What were you feeling in the moment? Like, what was going on? So then we have an understanding. So the next time those emotions come up, we can address it and we can work around it. But we're never going to yell. I mean, have we ever once yelled at you for going off plan?
No. In fact, if anything, you guys are encouraging, like, cool, what you going to do better?
Yeah.
And what are you committed to changing?
Yeah.
Because it is entirely up to me to choose.
Yep.
Right.
And what was the other thing I was thinking of? The blood work was something
Oh,
that
yeah,
my
let's-
husband and I
let's-
dragged our feet on doing.
Let's
A
go
lot
there.
of
Let's
people
go
do.
there. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because before I met Yo, I told Yo I'd gone to like a regular family health doctor for a checkup, and this doctor said, you are insulin resistant. You cannot have carbs. Like, it's not healthy for you. You shouldn't do it. You need to do this if you're going to get better, because you are in a weight class that is actually going to cause you complications should you get pregnant. And I was like, ooh, not going to do that. Okay. So I went on keto. And then that failed years ago. So when I went to Yo and he's feeding me bread and stuff, but it's working, and he asked for blood work, I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to show Yo my blood work. And then it's going to tell him, like, I can't have carbs. And he's going to take my sandwich away.
You're waiting for that confirmation of, like, I told you so.
Yes.
I'm insulin resistant.
I'm insulin resistant. So we got my blood work done. And Yo gives me the biggest side eye. Because my blood work was clean.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember being in the office, and because he showed it to me before you came in, and he's like, dude, she says that she's insulin resistant. Her family said they're insulin resistant.
And you
he's
had
like, look at this.
cholesterol
I looked at my, but
issues.
she's not, huh? He's like, no. He's like, I'm about to blow her mind. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So he pulls it up on the screen, the digital copy. I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, yeah, I sent it to him, but I don't know what I'm looking at. That's what I'm here to go talk to Yo about. And he says, okay, you see how all these numbers are green? That means you're in an acceptable, healthy range. I have clients that work for a year or so with me to get their blood work to look like this. You have no excuse. And then we hit the gym.
Yep.
That was the best blood work I've ever seen.
Yep.
When someone's starting the program, because in my thought process, we always have bad cholesterol, right? Horrible kidneys and liver responses.
Dehydration. Maybe, you know, depending on, especially for women, we see more thyroid issues. For men, especially, testosterone hormones are tanked. But yeah, so yours were green, and so that's the thing we see when people come in with that, and they're expecting something to be out of range. It's like, see, I told you that's why I can't lose weight, and then we see it, and we're like, hey, see how this looks good? You know what this means? You got zero excuse now as to why you can't make a change.
And then,
Word for word, I said that.
You said that.
Yeah.
And then I think it was after that I had my own mental shift, and then the weight just started coming off like really, really fast, because I was like, oh, I can eat my sandwiches without fear.
Did you feel a sense of relief? I mean, because we're not doctors, so we can't diagnose or we can't say anything. But when we see it, and we're like, you know, according to the blood work, you're not going to have an issue. Did you feel a sense of relief?
That was the
about
first
it?
time Yo saw me cry,
It was.
Wow.
was when he told me my blood work was clean.
Wow.
Because I had this belief for like well over a decade. There's something wrong with me. I will never get healthy. There's nothing I can do other than extreme actions of
Surprise.
keto, and surprise.
Surprise. Your blood work's clean. You get to eat sandwiches and
No cholesterol issues, nothing. You weren't pre-diabetic. You want insulin resistance.
Nope,
And
A1C
you did the
was
blood
good.
work, fasted, and then we just carry on. I said, okay, like you don't have any excuses to not change your physical, emotional, and mental as well. Now it's time to work, because your blood work reflection is perfect.
And I think the part that really pissed you off was when I told you the doctor did not have my blood work when he told me that.
I was going to ask that because you said that he said based off of the weight category you were in, you're insulin resistant, you're going to have a hard time getting pregnant. There was zero blood work. It was just going off of like what your chart in BMI. Like what did
How
did they come to that conclusion?
I'm going to say this one more time, and I think we talked about this a lot. We work with a lot of clients that went through doctors and nurse practitioners, right? And whether they diagnose the individual with some kind of issues or insulin resistance, whatever the case may be, and then they come to us, I'm like, and then we look at things differently
Yeah.
because we tend to help you more holistic way and actually help you lose weight, actually help you to lose fat. We have the meal plan. We have the program that help you get to the next level. Doctors do not have that. They do not. They only have the scale, the chart, and then they'll tell you, oh, by the way, you're overweight because of our BMI.
I mean, it's to no fault of their own, though, right? I mean, I guess it's depending on which side of the coin you're going to look at, because in medical school, the nutrition portion of it that you learn is very minimal. That's it. So, and obviously if you're seeing a ton of patients once every couple of months, like you're going to see your family doctor often, but that could be like, maybe 3 times a year sort of a deal, right? You have to wait for availability and this and that. So it would be hard for them to try to manage nutritional plans for individuals or macro plans or whatever. But at the same time, they speak in absolutes. And that's the one thing we make sure we do not do, because they're telling you, you are insulin resistant. You are going to have a hard time getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Saying that, again, as an absolute statement without any data to support it, without anything indicating that that's a fact.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I see, especially for our women clients, is they come in like, my doctor said I have PCOS. It's like, but again, we're not doctors, so I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about it. But from my experience with my wife as well, because she was told she had it, is it's a blanket diagnosis. You're going like, I have a hard time losing weight. When I have my cycle, it's pretty rough, and sometimes I have something.
Facial acne,
it's PCOS.
Hair,
That's why. It's like, but did you do any kind of testing? Well, they did blood work, and my A1C was kind of high. I'm like, okay, but that could be a million different things. Like they told my wife she had it before they did anything when we were doing our fertility treatment. And I had to argue with the fertility doctor to do an intrauterine wand scan. I'm like, let's actually confirm that she has it, because what you're telling me, I'm sorry, mom, it's bullshit. Like, that's not a fact. They do the scan, and her PCOS, we did finally get a confirmation, but all it was is, for a healthy woman, you should have between 2 and 22 follicles on each ovary, and that's what releases eggs. She had like 64 and 96, which means she can release a lot of eggs, but because she has a lot, she's going to have a hard time. So I'm like, okay, so it is PCOS, but it's not as bad as you're making it out to be. It's not insulin resistance. It's not mimicking type 2 diabetes. It's not, that's why your hormones are all screwed up. So that's our issue with doctors, is again, they speak in absolutes and just diagnose with things without doing the actual testing. And then you come to us saying, I'm insulin resistant. I guess I'll eat the bread, but I know it's going to cause issues. And we look at your blood and we can't diagnose again, but we just say, no, you're not. Let's eat the PB&J and watch what happens.
And it's not like it was at the beginning of it. Like, this was after a month of me following your plan. Because again, I dragged my feet on doing the blood work of like, okay, fine. Yeah. Because I was honestly worried I was going to get my rice taken away.
And it didn't.
Nope. If anything, we give you more rice.
I have it all the time.
Yep.
You have it all the time now. Yeah, no issue. And then we go into, I think we increased calories, we're losing a little bit of weight, and then we were cutting. I think if I remember correctly, did you guys go on any trips or vacation during that time?
Yeah.
If so, what was it? Do you remember?
So it was our tongue-tied. It was our anniversary, and we wanted to do a road trip down to Las Vegas. And so I was like full in. We packed all of our food into a cooler, all of our meal prep for the weekend, and we put it into an ice chest, and we put it in the trunk of the car, and we drove down to Las Vegas. But, the cooler.
That's commitment, dude.
It was, until we got to Vegas and everything was melted. And
no.
It was 110 outside. All of our containers with our eggs and stuff were flooded.
Filled with water.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we still had our rice cakes, and we still had peanut butter, and we still had tortillas.
But that's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. But we ended up, and protein bars, but we ended up going out to eat for the first time on what we could. So we ate what we could on our way down. So we got at least half of a day of normal good food.
And stuff like that is going to happen though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But we tried, and I was fully committed. And I remember texting you a picture of the trunk of our car with the cooler. And you were like, I'm so proud.
I'm very proud. I was proud. I was really, really proud. And then, the cutting process, we've lost, you went from 224 to 180, 170s, was it?
I got down to 172.
And then I remember I made you do like a squat with a dumbbell that you've lost with whatever number amount of weight that you lost. And I said, hey, walk with this for a minute.
God, it was hard.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I went up and down stairs every day with that, every day. Because it was a 70-pound, what is the big long
The
one?
barbell.
Yeah.
That you had, yeah. The easy curl one.
So we put that on my shoulders, and you had me just walk around the gym for my minute rest.
Yes.
So every time that I had a rest in between doing some workout, I would pick up the 70-pound barbell and I would walk around the gym for that minute rest. And I was exhausted after the third rep. I'm like, I am having such a hard time.
And you used to walk around with that weight all the time.
All the time. I would stand up and sit down from chairs with that. And
Do your feet still hurt now?
no, haven't for years actually at this point. So no, I haven't had a problem with my feet for since I think I was in my 210s. Like once I started building muscle and using my legs and my body more frequently, because the plantar fasciitis comes from an underused muscle that is then completely overstressed. So because I was moving in much more frequency, that went away. And I remember filming myself at the gym running for the first time, like actually cranking up the treadmill. And it was my first time running in 7 years. And I remember doing that, and that felt like a huge milestone because my feet weren't hurting. And I felt like I could do it. And there was also a time where I slipped on some tile in the grocery store, like some wet patch that someone had neglected. And I just like straight up boosh, landed on my butt. And I remember thinking, if I had not lost the weight and I had landed like that with the weight that I had, I would have really hurt myself.
Yep.
Because it's more than just a number. It's literal calisthenics of your body and how it moves. Like if I had fallen with that much weight, I probably would have hurt myself pretty badly.
Yeah.
So how does this journey translate with you and Alton relationship?
Oh, we're super strong. And we've always been strong, but like we have like a new level of understanding with each other of like taking care of ourselves and that highlight of importance. Cause I think he and I would try to please one another and in that process would neglect ourselves of like, okay, I have to take care of Tasha. She's having a bad day. So I'm going to put myself second. People put themselves second often.
Yes, that's very common.
And it is often in the name of love because it's like, okay, I'm going to extend myself to make sure that I am there for you. And that is from a wonderful, loving place. But if you cannot take care of yourself, if you cannot fill your own cup, if you do not love yourself first, there's no room to love someone else because you're working on borrowed pieces.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of Alton when he was having his health issues, when he's at his lowest, and he, if he came to you and said, Tasha, honey, I need you to help me. But imagine if you didn't take care of yourself and you're dealing with your own things.
I didn't.
How do you do that?
He was in some of the worst health issues that he'd been having for years during like the first 5 to 6 years of our marriage. And that was in those years, that's when I went from 180 to 245. I was not taking care of myself and I was blaming a lot of stress around other things that I could do. And my taking care of myself was eating food. So our relationship is wonderful. I absolutely love my husband to pieces. I am so, so thankful to have him in my life. And it's just, every day. He is my absolute favorite person.
I mean, it shows what support can do, when it comes to you wanting to better yourself, because unfortunately we see the opposite of what you and Alton have. We see the husband or the wife who isn't supportive, who doesn't want to help, who's questioning, why are you doing this? When we've seen plenty of situations where the wife is making changes and she's looking good, she's feeling better about herself, she's getting her confidence back, she's, feeling like she's showing up as a better wife and a better mom, but now the husband's upset that she's making changes. Why can't we go out to eat? Why won't you go to the bar with me? Or do you really have to go to the gym? And it turns into that. So, I mean, the fact that you have that support system, do you think if you didn't have Alton in your life and you went through this alone, I mean, do you think you could have held yourself accountable and gotten yourself out of some rough spots? Or do you think...
I think I would have folded in on myself pretty hard. Yeah. Because it's more than just like support of you go get it, honey. It's this is how we live. This is our life together. This is how we commit to each other now. Yep. Like it's a completely different promise of like, oh, I support you. Hope you do well. It's this is our home. This is how we hold our family. Yep. This is our family value standard now. And it was very, very different. And I have seen friends where one half of the relationship or the partner decided to make a completely different lifestyle change, and it fractured the relationship. Yep. And I have seen that from other friends, and I think that was a concern as like a boogeyman at first, that that was going to happen to us somehow. Not close. Not close.
Alton, it's a valid fear, though, right? Because it's a big lifestyle change, but you didn't have to go through it alone because he already started.
He had already started, and I always had a desire to do better with my health. And so there was at least that kernel there too. But being able to grow together with it, like we both got different things out of this entire process.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we were able to grow together as far as what we wanted for our futures and how we approach problems together as a couple. Because our decision making around things is far less impulsive. We make sure that we are calculating what we want for the long term because it is for the most optimal health of the individual and the couple. And so, yeah, I keep saying he's wonderful, but you guys know him.
Oh yeah,
we know him. Yep.
Towards the end of our coaching, I remember you and I had a conversation about, okay, what's your next goal? You've lost 70 pounds. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what is your next goal? Because I can't coach you or help you if you don't know where you're going. Right?
Yeah.
And then it took us a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
To kind of go back to that. And I think I remember you and I had a conversation, and I think you got emotional of that day as well, where I said, hey, if you're happy where you're at today, then we're good.
I think I was placing a lot of judgment on myself too, of like, no, happy is 145. Right. Happy can't be 180.
Right.
And that's not true. I no longer hurt. I enjoy going to theme parks again because I'm not worried about fitting inside of the chair anymore, which was a valid fear for me for a period of time. I am living my life in a way where I am happy. I feel a lot better. I recognize my face again. Like I could not understand what was the dissonance I was feeling of like, no, it's supposed to be a lot more. And then I was like, actually, no, this is a choice. I get to choose to feel happy about where I'm at and be proud of my body, where it's at.
Exactly.
And it was also one of the reasons that I could even begin to exercise or try new things is because I had to love myself where I was at, even at 245. Yes, I felt awful, but I really have to exercise self-love to even begin. And that is really, really a hard step when you feel like you've got a whole track record that says, I've never done this. When will it ever change? Why would it ever change?
Exactly.
And so the only way I could do that was starting to build trust in myself little by little, of doing things I say I would and keeping my own promises to myself. So when we had that conversation of just being happy with where I was at, it was me being like, oh, I am actually pretty happy with where I'm at. And
you don't have to be shredded.
I don't have to
have
be
a six-pack.
shredded.
Yeah.
And like and the other thing is if like the desire then kicks in again of like, okay, yeah, I want to go for 145. I have full confidence I could do it.
Yeah.
Because I've already lost 70 pounds. And it wasn't anything that anyone made me do. Yeah. I got to choose what I wanted to do.
What's the significance of the number 145?
I think that's when I ideally had like an ideal body figure for myself when I was younger. Because that was just, I mean, you're right. I'm pretty fixated on that number, but I think when I was at 145, I think I wasn't happy with where I was. And so because it was gone, I'm like, oh, okay, that's the white whale that I want again.
Exactly.
Because I used to be happy there.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, a lot of people, they have that number in their head, but they say, oh, that's back when I felt good. It's like, well, you've never technically felt good, so how do you know what it feels like? So now that you are happy and you feel good, do you think what you felt when you were 145 is what you feel now? Or do you think you wish what you had now is how you felt at that weight? If that makes sense.
I think what I have now is what I wished I'd felt when I was that weight. Because I was a perfectly happy, healthy, athletic kid. Like earlier in the episode, I kind of raised my hand of like, yeah, I felt like I was the fat friend in my friend group. If I show you pictures of me and my friends, you would probably not say that.
Yeah, but you feel it though.
I felt that way. And so, yeah, and I'm very grateful. Like my friends were truly wonderful people to be around. And I know some of them will watch this too.
Nick, do you want to ask her our favorite question?
Ooh, okay.
Our favorite question.
Favorite question.
Our favorite question. He knows what I'm talking about. Is the vision of you coming back to your past self.
Yeah, I guess so. So whether it was you at 14 you at 245 or you at 145, if you could go back to the part of you that you identify as who was the most hurt, what would you say to her right now?
Oh, now I'll just cry.
I know it's hard because when you're at that low, man, but if you can go back in the past, this person right here, talk to that person.
Not even that. What does, so that version of all of us still lives within us, right? And I know for a fact he lives in me. What do they need to finally just let go?
So I keep thinking of me at 245 because at that point it was just like a straight road of, it felt like just a straight road of hitting 300 pounds. Like the trajectory I was on, if I had not made any changes today, I would probably be around 300 pounds easy. Another 50 pounds in 2 years from then to now.
Yeah.
And so probably what I would say to her is that she keeps doubting herself, but she keeps forgetting about all the good things that she does. That she keeps minimizing and discounting what was successful for her and what was good. And that it was important that she remembers the good parts first, because when you're so focused on what you're a failure at, that's the part that you magnify in your life. Even now, there are things in my life where I have stressors or things that are happening, but I do not say that they rule my life.
Yeah.
I focus on the wins of what I am doing. I am 180. I have stayed under 200 pounds for nearly a year. And when I hit 200 pounds, I excitedly texted Yo and his wife to tell them about it, because I was just so excited of how significant that number was, because it finally felt like I'd gotten through a glass ceiling.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's probably what I would say to her. And that when you focus on what's the good win in your life, like I'm 180 right now. I'm taking voice lessons for the first time, something I've always wanted to do. I am doing things that are drastically building my future with a man that I love, who absolutely loves me to his core, and I love him to my core too. And that those are things that, like, I remember being alone and overweight and praying for someday. And so it would be an absolute disservice of me to not remember those things today. So think of the good things in your life.
Do you think if younger you met who you are now, do you think she would not only be proud, but do you think you are who she needs back then? Like, if she could look up to you and be like, okay, this is who I need in my life to help me get through these rough things. Yeah. Do you see yourself as like that role model?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think me then would be very, very proud of me now, and like even excited of like, oh, we could do that. Yeah.
So my next question is this is the last question that we have for this journey, for this podcast. So what is your advice for anyone out there that went through the similar journey as you did?
Like before they got started for a change, or they've gone through the change, because they're both ends of things to consider.
You could do both.
Mean, both, yeah. Whether they're in the middle of it, they're trying to, they've gone through it, and they've, to them they feel like they've failed. What would you say to those individuals?
The first part was be positive about the fact that you keep trying. Like, this is actually a good thing, and it is a personal drive that you carry that means that it will be an eventuality. It's not something where it's always a failure. It's an eventuality. There's a difference in mindset there. And I would also say that, like, if there's some doubt of, oh, well, it doesn't happen to me, it happens to other people. The fact is, unless you do it for you, it will not happen. And no one's watching. No one, like, that's the other thing. People get self-conscious of, like, if I try and I fail, then people will see me as a failure publicly. And that's not how that works. People are so involved about their own lives, truly, that they're not worried about whether you failed at eating a cookie that day, or that it's like indicative of some pattern of you as a person, because the only person who can decide what you as a person is you. Yep. If you've decided, oh, I can't do this because I am a failure at what I try to do, the only person who's likely told you that is you, or if someone had told that to you, you've decided to keep it and hold on to it. You get to decide when you let that go. And it's okay that when you start to make changes that you will feel resistance from other places in your life, because you cannot have a new life without giving up some things about your old one. And that includes like binge eating. That was a comfort thing for me. I do not do that anymore because it's something I had to give up as a comfort method in order to have a new life.
So what is your comfort method now?
It is going to the gym. It's going to the gym.
Is that weird to say that?
Yeah, I would not have believed you if the 245 me was like my favorite thing is to go to the gym to take care of myself. That sounds like pain and torture.
Because it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is.
We do it all the time. Every time we work out, halfway through it, I'm like, what?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Why are we doing this?
Every time.
Yeah, who decided that we should do this instead of just working a regular 9-to-5 job?
Yeah, it
But
was-
in reality, I would much rather be doing that than
Yeah.
go back to an office.
But I will also say, as you make those changes, you're going to attract different things into your life. You're going to attract different people, and you will probably repel different people as well who aren't happy about you making the changes because for them, that's still their comfort place, and you're moving away from that comfort place.
Yep.
And that is okay. It's okay. It's also okay to mourn those lost friendships.
Yeah.
Because it's like we were there for each other, and now it's not a fit anymore. But I absolutely love you, and I wish you the best.
Yeah.
And that is okay. And I'm not saying you have to like proactively go up to your friend and be like, we can't be friends anymore. There are some things where maybe they've got like that same desire, but they've been too afraid to move forward without a support. So as you start to make those changes, they will come up out of nowhere and be like, oh, I actually started dieting this week. What have you found that you like? You will be surprised how many people in my life approached me after I started losing weight, not even just like asking me for advice. They would straight up volunteer what they were doing to take care of their health because I was so vocal about it.
Yep.
And that actually gave me signals of who in my life would resonate with that piece of it, and that they probably needed support in that area too.
Yeah.
So-
And if you can be that support because you know what it's like to not have that.
Yeah.
That is a great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. This has been cool. This has been really cool to have Tasha and obviously her husband as well, Alton, to be on a podcast. And coming from this morning's Zoom call, it's
Already
very
emotional.
emotional Zoom call this
Best
morning.
part of this program, by the way, you guys, once you get into working with these two, we have a bi-weekly phone call that we do with other people of this community. And it's like full honesty of like, this is where I'm at, this is what's happening. And it's never pretty. I've ugly cried on those calls.
I think we all have.
We all have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have.
We've seen each other cry a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
But I think it's okay. It's because we promoting it's okay not to be okay. You know, and really speak on it and talk about it and express how you really feel, because we all know if you suppress that emotion, bad things is going to happen. And somewhere, one way or another, it's going to come out. It's going to come out ugly. Right.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you being on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode number 32. Thank you for sharing our Reels, our YouTube, our Spotify, sharing our posts on social media or any
All the
sort of
content we
all
put
the
out.
content that we put out.
Yep.
It's been an amazing the last almost 5 years with Unfinished Lifestyle. I think this year will be
Crazy
our
it's been
5th
that long.
year, our 5-year anniversary. So we're excited to change a lot of lives, I should say, moving forward in the future. So thank you, Tosh. Anything
Thank
else?
you
Being
guys.
on.
Thank you. No, I'm just grateful to be here, and thank you guys for having me and for sticking with me all these years and helping me out. You've been a wonderful part of my life, and I'm very, very grateful to have you both.
Beautiful.
Around.
I'm glad.
On to the next episode. Later.